Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Good. I sorry, folks. I always laugh at that computerized
I love
warning. Good afternoon. It sounds like Danger Will Robinson from Lost in Space. Folks, welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, a Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. I'm David Menzies. My lovely co-host, as always, is Sheila, the She-Devil Gunn Reid. And wow, Sheila, I still break out laughing about that warning, but when you think about it, it's kind of sad in a way that we have to run this because we don't want to be demonetized or deplatformed.
Yeah, we begrudgingly run it because we have to, because the Silicon Valley censors down at YouTube would love nothing better than for us and our 1.4 million supporters to just disappear into the ether. Yeah. So we will play by their stupid little rules and run their stupid little warning, and we're going to make it as fun as we possibly can. So that's why it has that sort of fun little automated voice. By the way, Justin, I can't see the Skype feed, so there's just a big black screen where David's smiling mug should be, if you wouldn't mind fixing that for me.
And Sheila, for those who don't know or who are newcomers to the live stream, every Tuesday and Thursday we give the big boss man, Ezra a break from doing the live stream because he's got so many plates spinning and we talk about the issues of the day. We talk about the anything that our Super Chat viewers want to speak about. And this is when you usually come in and explain what the heck a Super Chat is. And I heard from Mr. Producer that one of our most beloved fans has already given us a 3-figure Super Chat, even before we got on the air. Can you imagine that?
You know, and true to her word, she promised it yesterday on Twitter, and she came through. This is it used to be just a weekly Super Chat show, only on Fridays. And it's like a bit of an old-timey radio call-in show where we don't screen the callers. And it gives our viewers a chance to support the work that we do, for David and I to interact with each other, which is fun because not only are we colleagues, but David, you're my beloved colleague and friend. And it's allows our viewers to do something that they can't do on many of the major mainstream media networks, and that's just leave a comment, express an opinion. And so you can do that. We don't close the comments here on YouTube. If you've got something to say, go ahead and say it. There's quite a lively little discussion that goes on in the live chat. There's a real community that's grown there, especially over the pandemic, because they know we're here every single day talking about the news and the things that interest our viewers. Oh God, I've got to turn off my notifications. They're going off in my ear because the Super Chats are rolling in so fast already. So anyway.
We're never going to get to half of these.
I know. They're just flying in and the notifications are really loud in my ear. But what you can do is something called a Super Chat, as Lisa Proust has already done twice, because she's an incredible supporter, a generous person, and I think just an all-around nice lady. A Super Chat is something that YouTube allows us to do here on the live stream. They take some of the money, we take the bulk of the money, and it's a great way for you to support the work that we do completely willingly, unlike what they do to you at the CBC, where you have to pay to support them. It will give you a chance to highlight your query, question, or comment so that everybody can see it, and David and I can see it. And if you've got something to say, put it in a Super Chat. We'll read it on air. If it's a question, we'll do our best to address it. If it's an issue you want to put on our radar, now's your chance. I have actually a question for our viewers, actually a couple questions. I'll get to the first one, and I'll get to the second one a little bit later, and maybe people would like to leave their answers in the form of a Super Chat. In Alberta, tomorrow, Remembrance Day is a statutory holiday. And so I'll have the day off. Yeah.
Oh, Sheila, I don't know if you're coming through, but it looks like you've frozen, which is kind of hard. Oh, Sheila, are you back? Oh, okay then, folks. I think Sheila was going to pose the question. I'm just imagining, because we don't script this beforehand, if Remembrance Day should be a statutory holiday or not. In Ontario, it is not. In Alberta and some other jurisdictions, it is. I'm of two minds of this. I think that definitely what we have to do at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month is come to a complete standstill for 1 minute, 2 minutes, whatever the prescribed time allotment is. Pull over if you're driving, stop the cash registers if you're a retailer, and do that 2 minutes of silence. So I kind of get the argument that this should not be a holiday, that this should not be a day off in which to, be frivolous, to have leisure time. However, on the other hand, if it is a holiday, then I think anyone that has the day off should use that time to get to a cenotaph and pay their respects. There's no excuse if you have a holiday not to be there by 11 a.m. to show your respects. And we had Sheila, and then we didn't have Sheila. She was frozen again. Folks, and by the way, Lisa Proust, I want to thank you so much. I believe you gave a donation of $100. I think Sheila was going to get around to saying that. And a super special thank you to you, Lisa, because I know my colleague, Sheila, has butchered the pronunciation of your surname for several weeks until we got the, I guess the rule, Proust rhymes with boost. So thanks for boosting us $100. It helps keep the lights on. Mr. Producer wants to work on the technical difficulty. So here's the deal, folks. I'm going to set up our first story of the day, which is, if you can imagine, yep, it happened again. Another rebel reporter assaulted and had his equipment smashed to pieces, making it inoperable. I'm speaking of yours truly. It's also happened to Kian Bexty. It also happened infamously to Sheila at a women's march, if you can imagine, when a thug punched her in the face. And this time it was in Aylmer, Ontario. And just for the backstory here, folks, there was an anti-lockdown protest. And basically the people there, two main groups. Many were members of Yahoo Nation, which since late April have been protesting either at Queen's Park or Yonge Dundas Square in Toronto. And they've been peaceful protests. There's never been an incident. So there was no reason to think they would be wearing trouble on their shirt, as the Bruce Springsteen lyric goes. The other big contingent were the rank and file members of the Church of God in Aylmer, Ontario. And you would never see these churchgoers do the Antifa kind of thing, throwing rocks and Molotov cocktails. Nevertheless, Mary French, the mayor of Aylmer, declared a state of emergency, folks, before there was an emergency. She was imagining there was going to be an emergency. It kind of reminds me of I think it was the 2002 movie, Minority Report, Tom Cruise. Remember that, folks? The pre-crimes unit where they would go out and arrest people on the suspicion that they were going to commit a crime in the near future. Well, Mayor French thought there was going to be some kind of anarchy and chaos coming to the little town of Aylmer, population 7,500. And she was wrong. Actually, she was half right. It wasn't the anti-lockdown protesters. It was the small counter-protest folks who were denouncing those protesters and wanting more government control, more mask regulation, more social distancing regulation. You name it, they were all about less freedom, not more freedom. Now, I'll be honest, I talked to a couple of them, very civil. There was a lady holding a sign. There was a man dressed in a clown costume. So you have to assume if you're in a clown costume and you're not at a children's party, and if it's not Halloween, you do want to talk. You do want to send your message out. They were fine. But the trouble arose when I was tipped off that there was one individual, and just imagine the perverse irony here, folks. One of the counter-protesters was yelling to the demonstrators for the anti-lockdown protesters, that is, that he wished they would all die. Yeah, so this person who ostensibly wants more government control and more Wuhan virus lockdown measures in the name of public safety, is saying to the people who have a disagreeable opinion to him, I hope you all die. So I approached him to get clarification. And, well, that eventually led to, like I said, yours truly getting assaulted and having my equipment destroyed. I think we have a clip of that. And, Mr. Producer, if you can just play that now, please.
That's not good. He like he says, you want to believe what you believe, you believe. I don't give a
Sorry, what was that?
Wear your mask.
Wear my effing mask?
Yeah, that's what I said.
That's
Keep your fucking distance.
Thank you, buddy. I wanted to do it. Do it. I don't want to do time.
Get away from me.
I've never done time.
Yeah. Away from my daughter. You're the fuck away from my daughter.
She called me over.
She didn't call you over.
Officer, this guy destroyed my microphone.
Yeah, he just fucking got my daughter.
Back up.
No, she didn't. She said wear your mask. She said wear your mask, sir. That's all she said.
Got that all on film, David.
Stuck it right in that guy's face.
Filming? Yeah, we'll be sending it. Yeah, complete assault.
You don't sit and light in somebody's face. Excuse me, officer.
Yes, it does. Stick it.
Back up. He's not wearing a mask.
He destroyed my microphone.
That's assault.
There you have it, folks. That was the Aylmer police that arrived on the scene. And shockingly, at least to me, they did not press charges. Multiple camera angles, multiple eyewitnesses, and yet the Aylmer police let that guy just walk down the street. And it was kind of funny when I asked the officer why he wasn't pressing charges. This is officer number 88. He said, well, we're kind of busy right now. Kind of busy what? Making sure that law and order is maintained. And yet here's an example of a criminal act happening. I was assaulted, clearly. I had my microphone stolen, and I had my microphone smashed to pieces. And they let that person walk. So as a result, folks, once again, I regret to report that we've had to revive the portal, findthethug.com. And a couple leads have come in already. We're checking them out. As per usual, folks, we are offering a $500 reward for the first person to correctly identify that hooligan that did that. There was absolutely no reason for that person doing that. His daughter, at least he claimed that girl was his daughter, during an interview, interrupted it by yelling at me words to the effect of, wear your effing mask. So what a delightful little lady she is. And I merely took the opportunity to walk up to her. As you saw, I wasn't charging her. I wasn't being threatening in any way, just to make sure that what I thought I heard was indeed what I heard. And as you can see from the video evidence, she did say that. He jumped into the fray with the ostensible policy reason that he was defending his daughter. Defending his daughter from what? A question? And the police, the Aylmer police, you know, it's kind of reminiscent, folks, of Caledonia. For about 14 odd years now, there has been two-tier policing by the Ontario Provincial Police there, meaning that if you are a violent native, you can get away with arson, car theft, assault, battery, and the police will turn a blind eye. In fact, parts of Caledonia are known as the no-go zone, and meaning that even the police don't go there. But if you're a townsfolk person, such as the great Caledonia crusader Gary McHale, and you plant a Canadian flag in a vacant lot, you are arrested, handcuffed, put in a police cruiser for disturbing the peace. I'm not kidding about this. And here we have in Aylmer a clear act of vandalism and assault. Police sees nothing here, absolutely nothing. And yet I was told by another journalist that when the anti-lockdown demonstrators did their march through town, driving at a scorching 2 kilometers per hour, these same police officers were issuing Highway Traffic Act tickets, such as not wearing your seat belt, or somebody was standing up on a seat through the sunroof waving a flag. That they bring down the full thrust of the law, but for something as odious as an assault. So you have to wonder, Are the police picking and choosing who they are going to give tickets to? So if an anti-lockdown protester so much as jaywalks, they'll get the book thrown at them. But if the pro-big government, pro-lockdown people do anything criminal, they'll turn a blind eye. That's called two-tier policing. That's called two-tier justice. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick and tired of seeing this. There's a reason why the icon of Lady Justice is holding the scales and she's wearing a blindfold. Justice is justice. These days it seems like Lady Justice isn't blindfolded. She's wearing X-ray glasses, for goodness sake. And there you have it. I'm sure it's only a matter of time before we get a positive identification on that individual. And the person that does it is going to get that $500 reward. So there it is again, findthethug.com. I know he's masked, but I think there's enough of his face there and his hair color to make a positive identification. Aylmer is only 7,500 people, like I said before, folks. If he doesn't live in Aylmer, it's probably the surrounding area. So I think it's only a matter of time before we get justice. And by the way, when I say justice, I'm not talking about street justice here. And whoever knows him, please don't personally harass this individual. We just want a name so that if the police are not going to charge this individual, we will pursue a private prosecution. Secondly, we will pursue a civil prosecution. And that's the difference between us and them, I should say, folks, is that we believe in law and order. We believe in the rule of law. They believe in the law of the jungle. And we don't stoop to that level. So please, if any of you out there knows who that individual is, let us know, and you might be eligible for a $500 reward. And Mr. Producer, do we have Sheila Gunn read, or are we? Not yet. All right then. So I should tell you, as one my full report on the Aylmer protest will be coming up, folks. But again, what I and I think we have a preview. So rather than me yammering on, let's roll some videotape, please.
Warning. Censorship. Warning. Censorship.
What did we learn from this anti-lockdown protest? Well, I think we learned that the priorities of Mayor Mary French were completely skewed. She declared a state of emergency, thinking that these people who engaged in a peaceful protest were going to be violent. The only vulgarity and vandalism and violence that we experienced was on this side of the street by the pro-lockdown protesters.
I have a hard time not killing stupid people.
By the people that support more government and support more lockdowns and basically support more misery. Yeah, did you catch that one? The fellow holding that rope or chain or whatever it was saying, I have a hard time not killing stupid people. And again, it's the perverse irony, folks, that these are people that are all about lockdowns and clampdowns for preserving public health. And yet they are the first ones when they see people with a contrary opinion, a contrary philosophy, people that are questioning the authorities, they want them killed. So it really makes me wonder if indeed their priority is in fact all about the public health when they are so gung-ho to advocate death. That fellow, by the way, was wearing a jacket. He was very evasive with me. I kept asking him if he worked for the radio station, which had the call letters on the jacket. And he was so evasive, he was pretending to not know that he had call letters of a radio station on a jacket. And, I heard we have, it's the Christmas miracle, Sheila Gunn Reid. How I miss you so, don't you ever go. Sheila, you just saw the video. Yes. Instead of me yammering on, can I please get your analysis of what we just saw there?
I can't believe the amount of cops standing around doing nothing. Like at least when I was assaulted, I went directly over to the cops. They went to get the guy, but by then the feminists had already helped my attacker get away. Dion Buse, DionBuse.com for anybody who wants to know what's going on there. Yeah. But you had police right there, and they either wouldn't or couldn't or were advised not to intervene there. We should file some access to information, wipe the daylights out of that to see if there were any communications between the city or town of Aylmer and the police service there. Because, I mean, that what happened was outrageous. That if they're there to keep the peace, if people are being less than peaceful, then you nab those people. But that's not what happened at all. And then when you see the coverage from the local media, I think they said something along the lines of like altercation or scuffle or something, as though you had played an equal part in it instead of being the unwitting victim in all of it for just trying to do your job.
But let's be fair, Sheila, you said something about the police not doing anything. That's incorrect because they were getting their ticket books out in preparation for the march, in which they were going to hand out Highway Traffic Act tickets to that procession going down the road at 2 clicks an hour. Yeah, it's shocking. It's Sheila, I don't know how much you heard of my analysis earlier on, but again, it's like two-tier policing, and it plays into the whole hypocrisy of the Wuhan virus. Get a load of this, Sheila. A couple of days earlier, before this protest happened, the mayor of London, Ontario, in a CBC interview, he said words to the effect of, I hope no Londoners go to Aylmer. I hope nobody lets people that are there into their homes, etc., completely condemning the anti-lockdown protest and the people participating in it. And my dear, on August 29th, London, Ontario, was the home to a Black Lives Matter protest.
Yeah.
A few thousand people showed up for that. Not only did the mayor not condemn that, not only did the bureaucracy not have anything to say, not only did the public health authorities have anything to say, but a couple of city councillors attended and spoke at that gathering. So what I'm saying, Sheila, is I think we might be doomed as a species, that this Wuhan virus is so super intelligent that when it sees that it's a Black Lives Matter protest in the name of ostensibly racial justice, it just drifts off into the stratosphere. But if it's an anti-lockdown protest, that Wuhan virus, it doesn't like that kind of thinking, and it suddenly morphs into the Ebola virus in terms of being contagious and deadly. It is unbelievable. I can't bear this year anymore, 2020, Sheila, of the double standards and the hypocrisy that we encounter every day.
We've got Rachel Notley here in Alberta, and thank God Albertans unelected her, because right now she's calling for major lockdowns again.
Of course.
She unemployed hundreds of thousands of people in the oil industry and then went after coal. And the ones that are left, the ones that have already survived the first light lockdown that we had, she wants to put them out of work now. She had her MLAs speaking, not just attending, speaking at Black Lives Matter protests during the lockdown, where we all had to lose our jobs and never go outside again to save people's grandparents when, that clearly wasn't the case anyway. But they're advocating for it, and it's the same all over. If you the virus, it goes right down along political lines. If you want to be left alone, if you want to run your business, if you want to just have a little bit of normalcy, retain some of your freedom, the virus is going to get you, and you're a super spreader. But if you're out there, tromping around for Marxist ideals in crowds of thousands, well, that virus is just going to pass right over you. It's almost biblical, isn't it?
Sheila, do the politicians and the health bureaucrats and the Theresa Tams of this world, do they think we're really that stupid that we can't see the hypocrisy and the double standards? Or are they just so blind in terms of when it comes to virtue signaling, they simply don't care that they're espousing a double standard?
I don't think they care. Like, I think that like Theresa Tam has to know, intellectually speaking, that within a week, she went from, why would you put masks on healthy people? That's crazy, to everybody's got to wear masks, and now super masks. We need 3 layers in there now. I mean, she has to know within a week that she had said that publicly in press conferences. Like, she has to know. They just don't care. And if you, I'm pretty sure there are almost no conservatives, freedom-minded folks in the health bureaucracy these days. There just aren't, because there are very few health bureaucrats saying this is crazy. There's a lot of doctors who are saying, yeah, okay, this is sort of a bad idea. We've gone too far. This is unnecessary. There are doctors saying that. There are health professionals saying that. But health bureaucrats, oh, no. They like the power. There's one reason you get into the bureaucracy, and it's to get power you didn't earn.
They like the power, and they don't like to rock the boat. Sheila, I think we have some super chats, my friend.
I don't know if you touched on them before or not, so I'll just start from the top.
No, they're all yours.
Okay, great. Let's put on the glasses.
Getting a little old. The eyes are failing a bit, Sheila. Or?
Yes, long in the tooth and poor in the eyes. Lisa Proust, generous Lisa Proust, who was so patient with me for months while I said her name wrong on air, gives us $100 and says, beautiful. David, I'm so sorry you were attacked in Aylmer. This $100 or these $100 are to add to the $500 that Ezra offered for leads to find the person who disrespected you. You are a source of inspiration, and I'm deeply thankful to you and Rebel News. You taught me how to legally stand my ground. Oh, well, that's very kind, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Lisa, you are a gem. Thank you so much. That's an incredibly generous donation. You always tune in with some kind of donation. And, I'll tell you, it's been a rough year. I've had a bottle thrown at my head in Kingston. I had a mastiff rip up my thighs. By the way, those scars are still there. They're not bleeding anymore, Sheila, but according to Lady Menzoid, she thinks they're there for the rest of my life, those big fang marks. And what are we doing, Sheila? You, Kian, and I, just practicing journalism, just asking questions. None of us deserve that. And I'll tell you this, too. Nobody on in the mainstream media. I don't even care if you're a CBC socialist. You don't deserve to be impeded either. And but that's the thing too, Sheila. We would stand up for them, but for us, nothing to see here, folks. And we know, forget about a physical assault, folks. If there was a CBC, especially a female CBC employee, that was the subject to a verbal quip along the lines of blanker right in the blank, it's a cause celeb. It becomes a story. It almost becomes a request for a royal commission on misogyny. But if you get a bottle over your head, if you get a dog sicked on you, if you get punched in the face, if you have your equipment smashed, hey, that's the rebel. They're kind of instigating it. Kind of using the argument, Sheila, of yesteryear when, oh, well, look at the rape victim. She was wearing a mini skirt and she was showing cleavage. She was asking for it. Just give me a break. Can we at least have a little media solidarity just once?
No, we can't. No. In 2005 and 2016, maybe we could have expected that. But I think they are so, and the mainstream media, they're so consumed with, I think it's envy, to be honest with you, because we're making a go of it. We've got the supporters like Lisa and thousands of other like her, 1.4 million other people like her who choose to watch us and support us. No, not all of them support us. Some of them are hate clicks, but a click is the same thing, whether it's a hate or a love click. I think they're jealous. Before in 2015, 2016, when we were just sort of scrappy and upstart, they sided with us when Rachel Notley threw me out of the legislature and said I couldn't report. And they sided with us, but now we are a major threat and a major critic. And they're jealous of us. We're a legitimate competitor, and they will do anything to stop us.
And Sheila, there's another element to the jealousy, not just in terms of being a competitor, but as our boss himself, Ezra Levant, has said in the past, I think they're jealous of our freedom, that we get to call it as we see it, which is what it should be done. They can't, and part of the reason they can't is political correctness. Another part of the reason, a big part of the reason I should think, and it's spreading, is that more and more media outlets are on the government teat. They, $1.5 billion to the CBC annually, $595 million plus more for the newspapers out there. And, I don't think I'll give his name, but there's a good guy that is a supporter of ours in the mainstream media. And he once said to me, when I was talking about this very issue of, the way the media has prostituted itself to government money. And he said, Dave, have you ever seen a prostitute that's really, really happy? So they're miserable. They know they've been domesticated. They know they don't have our kind of freedom. And the sad thing is, Sheila, they've accepted the carrot. We have not. We would never take government funding, even if it was offered. And I can only imagine next year how this Trudeau Liberal government is already working on plans that if these guys are not accepting the carrot, then maybe it's time to employ the stick. And you mark my words, folks, when they start tabling this nonsense about regulating the internet, that's a direct attack on us. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, it's like I said before, when they say we're going to regulate the internet, they're not talking about the Globe and Mail, and they're not talking about the National Post, and they're not talking about the CBC. They're talking about Rebel News. They're talking about True North. They're talking about Spencer Fernando.
Yep.
That's who they want to come for. They definitely don't. Those other guys, they're taken care of. They are birds in a gilded cage. Let's keep going because we're halfway done the show. I spent half of it frustrated. I spent half of it cursing Skype. We need to get through these super chats. We have two things we want to talk about because we have the Aussie Parliament praising us. Our own government is threatening to censor us all the time, and we're being praised in the Aussie Parliament. And then we want to talk about the Yasmin Ratanzi. I think I'm saying her name right. The Liberal MP who employed her sister since 2005. Well, we have a little clip from the Rebel archives that we dug up about what a shameless hypocrite that woman is. So let's breeze through these.
Can't wait.
Yeah. We're nothing if not incredible researchers. Mark gives us $5. Make Alberta great again. With recent government chatter about locking down for just 2 more weeks. It's always just 2 more weeks. I think we're on month 9 of 2 weeks to flatten the curve. If the flatten the curve babies are full term at this point, you know what I mean?
You know what? You're right. 2 more weeks. And there's a movie, I think it's from 1985 or 86 called The Money Pit. It's about a home renovation. And the ongoing joke is when this house is in a state of semi-demolition and the couple keep asking the contractors, when is it going to be finished? And it's always 2 more weeks. And there's this funny scene where it fades to black, Sheila, and then it comes back into focus, and the script says 6 months later, and the home looks exactly the same.
Yeah, that's the pandemic in a nutshell right there.
Exactly.
Mark asks, are Albertans sheep or lions? I think we're lions. I think our politicians are often sheep. Lisa Proust gives us $5. Sheila, in case you felt ignored by my donation to David, I did not.
She's so sweet.
I know, she's so kind. I love you and respect you deeply. Aw, Lisa, thanks for all you do. I can walk confident without masks. Aw, Lisa, thank you. We don't deserve Lisa. Martin Sable gives us $20. Dave, are you filing a complaint against the OPP in Aylmer and Aylmer's PD for not doing their job by laying assault and property damage under $5,000 charge? Wondering if Ford ordered police not to enforce anything on them. I think that's Aylmer police, not OPP, right?
It's funny, Sheila, the police on the scene were Aylmer police, but our lawyer who is on this has already sent a letter off, has been told that this is Ontario Provincial Police jurisdiction for some reason. This morning, I received correspondence saying to call this 1-800 number. I assume it's OPP headquarters. If you can imagine, once I said who I was put on what was to be a brief hold.
Weird.
I waited almost 30 minutes. I had to terminate it because of a radio interview of listening to a recorded message of, your call is very important to us, don't hang up. So I'm going to have to try again today. But, thank God that wasn't the OPP's 911 service. I know when you're part of a home invasion or something, you would have been dead and buried by the time somebody answers it. So I'm going to try again. But if they're not going to do an investigation, like I said, we're going to find out who this is, and we're going to do a private prosecution, and then we're going to go after him civilly as well, Sheila.
That guy needs to know that we're bringing hell with us. Yeah. We're going to get him. We're bringing hell with us. We're going to make his life very difficult for a very long time. Again, just ask Dion Buse.
And you know what? One last thing on that. Isn't it wonderful that our employer is Ezra Levent?
Yes, thank you.
Not only does he not bend the knee, he doesn't just say that, folks. He backs it up. And if you do that to us, Ezra is adamant. You can't come after our people like that. You just can't. Yep. And the most egregious example is what happened to Sheila a few years ago at an Edmonton women's rally when a little sniveling girly man threw a fist at Sheila's face. Can you imagine that? Who in the world would, in their right mind, would ever want to hurt Sheila Gunn Reid? And those women, if I remember that video correctly, Sheila, they were running interference for that goof to let him get away. But we tracked him down. And even though what we got out of him, it cost us probably to a factor of 10 more in terms of more money, in terms of legal fees. It wasn't about the money. It was never about the money, folks. It was about bringing justice, and we got it.
And moreover, to your point about Ezra, when that happened to me, my husband was away at work because he works out of town, as so many Alberta husbands do. And, he called me and he said, well, should I come home? No, don't come home. Everything's fine because we had it handled. Ezra instantly mobilized everything to make sure that I felt supported and that we were working with police and working with lawyers to make sure things happen. And, in talking to my family, because people ask me all the time, you kind of have a dangerous job. You went to Iraq and you go to these protests where people not only want to punch you in the face, they have punched you in the face. And, I don't feel scared because I have a boss and a company and a team. Because when something happens to one of us, we all just rally around. Like when you guys went to Nathan Phillips Square and took the square back. we had the team from The Office who were like, I'll go. Everybody, even off-camera staff, want to go and support us. And so I think we're really lucky. And I think it's a culture Ezra's created that I don't think you see in other media organizations, including those on the right.
No, we're very fortunate to have a boss like Ezra Levent, 100%, Sheila.
Okay, now let's get going on, because this is we seem ridiculous now. We're sucking up to the boss. Okay, Matt B300. Matt B300, who's also a regular donor and super chatter. I will get in on that too, Lisa. We have to help support our rebels in order for them to continue the excellent work they do for us.
Oh, thank you.
Reporting the truth, the mainstream media will not tell us. Have a great day, Lisa, David, and Sheila. And he gives us $50. Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate that so much, and all of your support for all the work that we do. Mark gives us $5. I hope you're physically okay, David. No, you're not alone. Police in Red Deer, Alberta don't like to do their job at the scene of an assault here either. Or in the instance of Kian and Help Jeremiah, they're often involved in the problem. Martin Sable gives us $5. He says, my friend in Edmonton Police Department even agree. What is the excuse for police to literally not do their job on the spot? Rebel media, only media I watch and respect.
And Sheila, if I may interject here, I think I speak for you and Ezra and everybody else at Rebel. We're not anti-police.
I'm pro-cop. I'm as pro-cop as
me too.
Yes.
And in light of the George Floyd incident, police are under all kinds of terrible pressure, especially south of the border. But the law is the law. And if you don't enforce the law, what is the use of having a law book in the first place? You have to, guys, and you've got to be, completely colorblind, in terms of the identity politics or the political correctness. You have to enforce the rule of law. Otherwise, you have a misery like Caledonia that just festers forever.
I don't like the work of really good cops who are in policing for the right reasons, members of our community who are there to protect our rights, keep their communities safe, who are, play on our hockey teams and go to our gun range. I don't like their good work being tainted by the actions of bad cops. And that's why I'm hard on bad cops, the way I'm hard on bad conservatives. Yeah. It's the same thing. Martin Sable gives us $5, says, would love to see the big tough guy, JT fan. I guess that's the guy who assaulted you. Punch Chris from Toronto, Chris Sky, I guess. Any update on Liberal Patrick Brown from Brampton? I don't know if you have any updates to bring him. Although I from what I understand, Patrick Brown is not all that happy with how strict the lockdowns are in his region. But
of course.
I don't know.
Sheila.
He's got hockey to play.
He's got those rinks he wants open for his, shinny games every week with his Barry buddies. What are you crazy? He doesn't want a lockdown. Forget about the virus. He wants to play the good old hockey game, right?
Yeah. William Byrne gives us $5. Hope you're okay from Saturday, and I hope you liked Max Burger PI. I gave you a few weeks ago. Yes,
Max Burger PI. I will say this, Sheila.
That's a great TV show name, by the way.
Max Burger PI is a comic book about a hamburger that's a private investigator. And I will say this, when it comes to comic books about hamburgers as private investigators, that's the best one I've ever read.
The best one. Yorgi gives us $5. Hey guys, I will ask a non-political question. Do you think this will be the end of Jeopardy? I don't know. I kind of hope it is the end of Jeopardy. It's not Jeopardy without Alex Trebek.
It's still, Sheila, I think if I had to watch a game show, that is my choice. I mean, what I loved about Jeopardy is that, and I'm not trying to sound snobbish here, but it was the intellectual value of it. In fact, not only and it was like an anti-game show. You weren't, as a contestant, for example, supposed to do fist pumps and yell and jump up and down, do the whole Price is Right shtick. In fact, you were forbidden from doing that. Yeah. It was all about the content, the clever questions and the intellectual capability of the audience. So I think as much as Alex Trebek will be forever associated with that show, I think there's another capable host that could carry on, because I think at the end of the day, and nothing against Alex Trebek, he did a fantastic job and he struck the right tone as an intellectual game show host, so to speak. But I think the content of Jeopardy is really what you're tuning into at the end of the day. And I think they could find, another Alex Trebek out there. Might not be as good as Alex Trebek, but I think the show can indeed survive another host.
Yeah, that's true. Price is Right went on without Bob Barker, and who could imagine it without Bob Barker? But it's still, still people are watching it. Dave Warren gives us $5. David, I was wondering if there's any follow-up to your challenge with Sneaky Patrick Brown in the city of Brampton. I think we're just sort of in legal stasis right now, are we not? Yeah, the wheels of justice grind slowly. And I can tell you right now, folks, thanks to this Wuhan virus, the courts are so backed up that I don't know if this will even be heard next year, to tell you the truth. Yeah. Hopefully it will be. But you better believe it, as soon as we have any movement on any of these files, and oh my goodness, we have so many on the go, don't we, Sheila? Because we really do put our money where our mouth is. Yeah. Whenever there's anything newsworthy to report, you're going to hear it here first. Yes. I've got to breeze through these faster. We only have 15 minutes left in the show. Oh, no. Matt B300. I know, and I have to do an interview with someone else after my weekly show. Matt B300 gives us $5 and says, the warning screen's voice kind of sounds like the voice on the TTC. Next station is Union Station. Doors will open on the right. That's true. You know what? Because the Danger Will Robinson, Robbie the Robot from Lost in Space, that was a male voice. And I had an epiphany. That female computer voice that we run with those COVID-19 warnings, if you go to the 1979 original movie Alien, the computer was known as Mother
That's the voice. I think we're using Mother's voice. You know, the mainframe computer of the doomed ship. So there you go, Sheila. Another piece of useless trivia for you.
It was genuinely useless. Cat Dubs gives us $5. David, really appreciate you and the Rebel team. Didn't you know we need masks outdoors now? Shake my head. True. It's true. It's crazy. Durfy gives us $10. Not sure about having Remembrance Day off. I think it would probably just turn the day into just another holiday. That's not what it is out here, though. I do like the idea of having the day off for the federal election. You know, get people out to vote. Sure. Martin Sable gives us $5. My friend in Edmonton PD. Okay, I went and did that one. Noble Canadian, $20. Thank you.
Thank you.
Drew Dilkins, mayor of Windsor, Ontario, asking spectators not to visit War Memorial on Remembrance Day due to COVID social gathering limits, and is doing it virtually. People still going to pay respects in person. I know that that's happening too. It makes me sad and angry that we cannot honor the people who bravely fought Nazis and then our younger veterans who fought the Taliban. We're too scared to honor their bravery, and it makes me very sad.
Yeah, and good luck enforcing that, Sheila. I can't imagine any police officer having the gumption to arrest a gathering at a war memorial on November 11th. And again, it just goes to show you the double standard. South of the border, the NFL is on, and many of the teams, most of the teams, I think, have what's known as limited attendance, which is attendance in the thousands. Maybe it's 5 or 10,000 in a stadium that seats 78, but it's a big gathering. So how can you go and cheer on a pro football game, and yet you can't gather in a far smaller number to pay your respects to those who made the ultimate sacrifice? That's vulgar.
Yeah, I'm going to make an unauthorized visit to the cenotaph, and they'll never take me alive. Durfy gives us $10. A bit too often, I think the police hand out a heckler's veto so as to take the path of least resistance. I think that's true by dealing with the people who they think will give them less trouble. Well, that's a mistake, thinking that we aren't going to give them trouble now, isn't it? Rusty Peterson gives us $20.99, 2020, written by Stephen King, directed by Quentin Tarantino, filmed live in Canada. Yeah, that's fair, because Stephen King has a touch of the Trump derangement, so that's just about right.
And starring Lady Gaga as the female lead in camouflage pants and driving a 4x4.
I'm still mad about that whole. Now I understand how cultural appropriation feels when it's done poorly, when it's done in a mocking way.
Oh.
Not like how I'm like, you'll pry my moccasins from my cold dead hands. I love them. No, when it's like you put on my clothes like it's a costume and you made fun of me. I get it. I feel it. The Hib gives us $10. I work in industry in Ontario, and I'm required to wear an N95 mask with exhaust valve at work for some tasks. I have COPD, able to set own limits. What defense can I use to refuse COVID mandated mask policy? I cannot give you legal advice, but I can direct you to maskexemption.ca, please. And you should see the exemption for your region there, hopefully. Martin Sable gives us $5. Dirt JT claims no money for real heroes like vets, but finds plenty of billions for media, future voters. He welcomes citizenship with their soldiers killer. Yeah, that's true. Troy S. 699. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rebel proudly presents its tag team champions of the internet. Sheila the She-Devil and David the Menzoid. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Wouldn't it be, my fantasy, Sheila, would be that there's a media version of wrestling in which and there'd be a co-ed tag team event. So it'd be, I don't know, Rosemary Barton or maybe one of the various 28 other hosts of the National. And wouldn't it be great to get into the ring with them?
I don't know if my audio just went down. I feel like it went down in my ear, but I think we would have to, and I'm not trying to be mean here, we'd have to worry about weight classes. I'm a small person is all I'm saying. But yeah, like celebrity boxing, but with journalists, that's fair. I think a lot of people would want to punch you and I in the face. Media, but if we could do it for charity, that's okay. Chris Dunn gives us $10. You are correct. The lamestream media does envy you because you're eclipsing them all without billions in public funds. Thank you. MEC, $2. Voting machines in the U.S. same as the ones used here. Yes. MEC, $2. Glad you're okay, David. Thank you. Thank you to you both and Rebel. SA gives us $13.99. Patrick Brown posted that he's happy to receive funding for isolation centers in Peel Region. I bet he is. Patty, I do approved. Viking Insane gives us $2. Canadians honor Trebek while they forgot Don Cherry. Also very true. Thank you for mentioning that. Snafu gives us $5. What do you guys think should take? Who do you guys think should take over for Alex Trebek? I have given it no thought. David, you got anybody?
Yeah, me.
Okay, let's keep going. Pink Phoenix Nails gives us $5. Thank you, Sheila and David. Thank you, Pink Phoenix. Raimi Daniel gives us $5 Australian. Love what you guys do. Do you have a Sydney crew? I would love to be part of the team. We just have Avi down there right now. Matt B300, $5. Last 35 pre-recorded Jeopardy shows will be shown through Christmas Day. Producer said that's what Alex wanted. Oh, that's nice. Theo Local Loner, we haven't heard from you in a while. £2. I think I found the thug on Facebook. Yeah, we've had some people send that our way. Lisa A gives us $6.99. SGR QDM interview. I think you mean Quick Dick McDick. Yeah, I'd love to talk to that guy. I feel like he's a fellow traveler in the conservative farmers movement. But actually, I have somebody else from Saskatchewan on today, someone you might know. It's Kelly Day. And so her interview will be tomorrow behind the paywall. And actually, if you would like to subscribe to our paywall shows, David has a super fun Friday show, Rebel Roundup, where you see us in our unscripted element, sort of like what we're doing here. Ezra's got his nightly Ezra Levant show, which is worth the price of admission on its own.
Yep.
And my weekly show, aptly called, if you can imagine, The Gun Show. It's only $8 a month. You get access to all 3 shows, and they're all full-length shows, and they're all really great. And yeah, Kelly Day is my guest. It airs tomorrow, but I have to record today. And that's it. We're all caught up. We should quickly, before we run out of time, go to Avi's thing, and then we got to talk about that because we're the only person who has that video right now. So that Ratanzi, Liberal MP Ratanzi. But let's go to Avi's first, because I think it's very, very strange that our own government is fighting us in court still for us to have access to our politicians, and yet we are being, I guess, championed in the Australian Parliament.
Dr. Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank independent reporters who have put themselves at risk to report the truth during this pandemic. Rebel News, Avi Yami, Reunite Democracy, Monica Smith, Morgan Joannis, Varil Ruskin, Matthew Wong, to name a few. Independent reporters should be treated with respect. To watch them being harassed, intimidated, and not to be treated equally as mainstream media is wrong. We need to thank independent reporters who step out of their comfort zones, who put themselves at risk to make sure that the community understands and can actually see firsthand at what's going on within this state, across Australia and across the world. We should all thank independent reporters of all descriptions to be able to straight and be able to talk the truth, because that's what we need during a time of pandemic. We don't need things watered down. We don't need to be treated like children with just snapshots and just bite-sized chunks of the actual truth and reports. I thank all independent reporters who are out there. I miss the independent newspapers that we had in our community, who used to be able to, in print form, feel that they could actually report with no fear.
Thank you.
It's coming. What a champion she is. And all I can think of, Sheila, is here is this lady in the Australian Parliament lauding Rebel News as well as some other independent news outlets. And I just go back to a little over a year ago when Andrew Scheer sicked the RCMP and then the Durham Regional Police on me, who were, by the way, kudos to the Durham Regional Police. They were shocked by the RCMP bringing me there, just for having the temerity to show up to a press conference to tell our audience of over 1.3 million YouTube subscribers, that many of whom are red meat conservatives, that this guy is a better bet for Prime Minister. What a loser Mr. Scheer was, and what a champion Miss Cumming is.
It is astounding, actually, that Andrew Scheer somehow managed to kneecap himself instead of making himself the champion of free speech and free expression and the free press. He had a real opportunity there, especially when we are fighting Justin Trudeau in court to get access to the debate at the very same time. He comes out as the guy who has a reporter arrested. We're just trying to be where the other reporters are, just asking questions. And you know, we never expect to get a question in. We just want to be there with the opportunity to be able to ask a question. We don't need, you know, to be guaranteed anything. And isn't it fascinating how quickly Avi has changed the media landscape basically by himself? Well, with the support of our team, because our team, our back office team, all the people that you don't see working out in front of the camera, they're a real support net for Avi. But how quickly Avi has been able to change the media landscape and affect freedom for Australians so that he's acknowledged in the Australian Parliament. That's on Avi, and that's on our team, and that's really quite incredible. And yet we are treated as though we are pariahs here in Canada by the mainstream media, the Liberals, and to some extent the official conservative types. Shame on all of them.
And Sheila, I love Avi's videos, and I feel like I'm learning a lot about Australia watching them, including, and I still think about this, it might have been his first video, or at least one of his first videos, where he's going to a protest, and he had to show the officer at a roadblock his media permission form, his papers, his permit in order to practice journalism, which of course in North America is a completely alien concept, but that's what they make him do in Australia, and Avi goes through the hoops. But of course in that day, even though he had his papers and his permits and everything in order, he was still gang tackled to the ground and arrested for I don't know what for.
It's, I see that, and I'm so proud of Avi, and I'm so proud of the work that we've all done to support Avi. And I don't want to like toot my own horn or because really this is a victory for Avi and the team that supports him in the back office. But it also goes to show how thirsty they were in Australia for just the other side of the story, for someone to come in and tell the other side of the story, to not just tell the story of, you know, the tyrannical actions of these local governments who are cracking down on freedom, but to go one step further and to fight, to do that journalism plus activism work that we've made, you know, our brand here in Canada. In Australia, they were so void of that, you know, Avi's being acknowledged in the Australian Parliament. It also goes to show just how effective Justin Trudeau's funding of the media party is here in Canada, because I think even if a politician in Canada felt that way about us, that Ms. Cumming did, and I know there are some, I hear from them, I know there are some, they would never be able to say it because they would be absolutely destroyed by the media party in Canada. They just couldn't do it.
Oh, and you know, and to that point, with Andrew Scheer trying to get cuddly with the mean girls of the media party. How did that work out for him in the end, Sheila? They looked for any pseudo scandal to crucify this guy. Really minor league stuff like when he was selling insurance, was he really a registered broker? I mean, and this was in the same year as blackface Justin Trudeau.
I know.
They just don't learn. And hopefully Aaron O'Toole isn't going to follow the Scheer path when it comes to rebel derangement syndrome, because he'll just be shooting himself in the foot too.
Isn't that the truth? Now let's get to this last story. And I did, Kelly Day, who is my guest that I have to record with after this show, she messaged me and said, Sheila, I'm enjoying the live stream. So just finish up when you finish up and we'll talk. So that's great. See, we have the best guests. We have the best supporters. So I know that we only have a minute left in the show, but I do want to get to this story of Yasmin Ratanzi. I think I'm saying her name right. She's the MP for Toronto's Don Valley East riding, and she is something else. She's been paying her sister to work in her constituency office off and on since at least 2005. She was unelected, I think, around 2011 and then reelected back in 2015. And her sister got off the gravy train and back on the gravy train when Ratanzi was reelected. And that's a big super duper no-no. You're not allowed to hire your family to work in your constituency office because ethics, I guess. But when Justin Trudeau is the leader of your party, you take your ethics directives from above. Now she's going to sit as an independent while representing her riding following an investigation by CBC News. Here's the thing. I think that Ratanzi is probably already, she's gotten in more trouble for this than Justin Trudeau ever has for any of his ethics violations.
Oh, including
already.
Including, Sheila, here's that charity that was hiring Justin Trudeau's mother, Justin Trudeau's wife. So it's kind of like, I could imagine Justin Trudeau being informed of this latest scandal and going, excuse me, can someone explain to me what the problem is here?
We is hiring Justin's mom, brother, paying his wife's bills. Why is Ratanzi getting in trouble for this? I mean, it's not really any worse than what they were doing with We, and We is basically funded by government. By the way, stay tuned. I'm sitting on a ton of documents right now about the funding that flowed from the Ontario provincial government to We. And that'll be coming out later on in the week. But there's just happened to be a middleman in between what Justin Trudeau was doing with his family versus what Ratanzi was doing, the middleman being We. But we dug up from the Rebel archives because, like I said, we're nothing if not great researchers. And in 2006, so approximately a year and a half after Ratanzi had already been violating ethics laws by employing her sister, she went off about Conservatives in the House of Commons, scolding them about accountability because they were hiring their friends to the tune of, I think, $13,000. Much less than, a decade's worth of sister salary. But I think we have that clip, don't we, Justin?
Don Valley East.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians weren't impressed yesterday with the antics of the President of the Treasury Board. The holier-than-thou minister was caught at the trough last spring, forking out a fat check to the Prime Minister's friend, Marie-Josée Lapointe. Of all things, for PR on his so-called Accountability Act. Not to worry, Mr. Accountability told the House the contract was cancelled. But Canadians found out yesterday he didn't quite bother to also cancel the check to the PM's friend and paid her $13,000 anyway. So long accountability, hello hypocrisy, with the added pleasure of another sermon from a minister under pressure. Maybe today, instead of another arrogant lecture, the minister will cancel the check to the Prime Minister's friend and repay all the misgotten money to Canadian taxpayers.
The honorable.
Sheila, I think that's
that
ultimately,
would a piece of work.
that's ultimately the Conservatives' major folly, right? It's $13,000 for a friend. A $13 glass of orange juice expense to taxpayers. They don't think big enough. I mean, this is couch change to the Liberals that they're getting caught on right now.
And the unmitigated gall of this woman, while she's saying this, violating ethics rules, paying her sister to do nothing in the constituency office, and she says, another, what is it? Some sort of lecture, Mr. Accountability. She's calling Stephen Harper. Hello, hypocrisy. I was writing it down like holier than thou. Well, nothing sounded holier than thou than that lady.
Oh.
And then she's demanding the Conservatives pay back $13,000. Well, your sister's got about a decade of salary, ill-gotten salary from the taxpayers. You going to pay it back, lady? You going to pay some of it back? I mean, she might get an ethics fine, slap on the wrist. What is she going to get? $300? It's worth it. It's worth it for a decade of funneling money to your sister from the taxpayer. $300. That's what is that? $30 a year? It's pretty good.
And sadly, Sheila, I'm almost tempted to ask the question, how does somebody possibly come back from this? And of course, the answer is, well, she's in a presumably strong liberal riding. And as we saw with Justin Trudeau with his numerous scandals last year, and the Conservatives still couldn't, close the deal, she'll be back just because she's part of Team Red. Diversity is our strength and all that jazz. Move on. Nothing to see here, folks.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau did blackface 3 times. 3 times! And he got reelected. So you think this lady's going to get in trouble? Not a chance. Oh. The Wii records just mysteriously were destroyed. And everyone's like, well, things happen. She's not going to get in trouble.
Sheila, I have to correct you. 3 times that we know of. Even the Prime Minister himself says he can't remember how many times.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly how many times I've done blackface, and it is 0. No mistakes there. Oh, boy. Okay, we should get through some of these super chats because they're still rolling in. Everybody's so generous. By the way, I was going to ask people to super chat what they think will happen to Ratanzi, but we have run out of time.
Yes.
But if you do super chat, I will stay on and read them. Clayton Robertson gives us $5. Giver from Overflow River. Keep up the great work. That's very generous, Clayton. Fraser McBurney, regular donor, regular super chatter. David, it's too bad you didn't come to our Hugs Over Masks rally last Sunday in Hamilton. You would have been coddled instead of pummeled. Sometimes David can't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It appears as though he does. And he's out working all the young bucks at the company every single weekend. But it's okay if David doesn't get to everything. Anti-Crazy gives us $25. Came late to the party, but I'm here now. Thank you very much. LCAP 22, £2. Pro-maskers say the assault on David was justified. Yeah, David was asking for it by not having a piece of cloth over his face. Can't you see? That's what makes your face super punchable, according to the left. It's just like me being a woman in a crowd of feminists, and I'm a conservative. I was asking for it. My politics are my skirt was too short, just like David refusing to cover up that beautiful face of his with a useless mask that makes his face super punchable, and his equipment, you can just smash it. That's how it works. Those are the rules. And the last super chat, I think. Right, Justin? Jack Krauser gives us $6.99. Can you stream on D-Live? YouTube sucks. You know what? YouTube may suck. I'm not saying they do suck or they don't suck because they're probably listening and lurking at all times. But we do have 1.4 million sets of eyeballs here. And so that's important for us to spread our message. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And I think that's it. We're all caught up.
Thank you so much, Sheila. We will have to talk about the Anne Hathaway story on Thursday. I really have some things to say about that.
I can't even get over that. You guys, stay tuned on Thursday. Anne Hathaway's in trouble because she apparently has all of her fingers and toes. And so she can't, that's a thing now where as an actor, even when you're acting, the point of acting is that you're playing somebody else that isn't you, right? I think that's the point. Otherwise, it's just a documentary. But she's an actor. She acted. And apparently, since she isn't the person that she was acting about, which happened to be a witch, which I don't think is really a real thing, she's in big trouble. So anyways, stay tuned. I'm full of opinions about it, obviously speaking.
We'll have lots more to say about that on Thursday. So on behalf of Mr. Producer and Sheila the She-Devil Gunn-Reid, I'm David Menzies. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you. An extra thank you, that is, to all the Super Chatters. We appreciate your support. See you next Thursday. In the meantime, stay sane.